Post-traumatic stress disorder and suicide among correctional officer staff. On any given day, we might be spit on, assaulted, threatened, killed, taken hostage. We have to break up violent fights. We have to work overtime and get very little sleep, and then have mandatory training after mandatory overtime. And working in some states as a correctional officer, the salaries are so low that some officers actually qualify for food stamps. All these things compiled together can make a very, very stressful job. Hello, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories, and I'd like to talk to you today about post-traumatic stress disorder and how we, as members of corrections, must support our officers, not only while on duty, but off duty and after retirement as well. We have to provide them the services to help. And today, I'd like you to hear from Canadian police officer, Mr. Daniel Garvin, who has sent me a very serious letter about post-traumatic stress disorder and what he had to go through. So please, if you have 4 minutes to spare, just listen to what he has to say. I myself was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and severe depression back in 2012 after intervening on 2 particular distressing calls that included multiple fatalities. The impact on me was something I never saw coming. I lost control of my emotions and almost everything else, including life itself. My supervisors removed me from active service, which I totally agreed with, as I could not predict how I might react in any given situation. I realized I may be a danger to my patients, partners, and myself. My employer offered me a position in administration and a treatment program, of which I was allowed 8 sessions that proved fruitless. I underwent a second round. On the 3rd visit, my therapist began crying when I described one of my recurring nightmares. I left her clinic that day believing that I was too far gone for anyone to help and decided that the only way out was through suicide. By the grace of God, I failed at that. One last-ditch effort was to go outside of the company-provided intervention and pay for the treatment myself. During the course of my treatment, I was terminated and told to find alternative employment. This news was devastating and put extra stress on my already bad situation. After going through a myriad of lawyers and other processes, I was granted a compensation of 3 years' salary for the injury I had suffered. Treatment ate up a large part of that settlement, but I was able to continue teaching with the Heart and Stroke Foundation and found part-time work as a private paramedic for special events. It has been a long and bumpy road finding my way out of the deep and dark jungle, and some days are still more difficult than others, but for the most part, life is good. I am officially retired now, but I still teach and hold the position of Commander of the Emergency Medical Services Honor Guard in Montreal. I particularly enjoy teaching children and have enlisted the help of a buddy in law enforcement who accompanies me to speak to children about street safety. It is amazing how fears can be soothed when children realize that police and other emergency personnel are their friends. I have designed a presentation that I have given to future paramedics, police officers, firefighters, and corrections. It is based on recognizing symptoms of depression and post-traumatic stress disorder in ourselves and our co-workers. It is a wonderful way for me to give back and share my experiences with others. Finally, some of my time is spent working towards a national monument for paramedics who give the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. I am a director on the board of the Canadian Paramedic Memorial Foundation. I am grateful for every day and for any way I can contribute to helping others. And he says at the bottom, thank you so much for your friendship and support and solidarity. And I also have been told by Mr. Garvin, retired paramedic, that thank you for agreeing to exchange patches with me. I have been collecting patches for over 33 years now. This hobby began for me after a friend who was working as a firefighter was diagnosed with cancer. He found this hobby was very relaxing and a distraction for him while he underwent cancer treatment. He did not survive, and as a tribute to him, I continue collecting patches, and I've never looked back. So, I know this is a paramedic who stated this, but you realize what he said here. It is for everyone. The same thing for police officers, firefighters, corrections. And his agency did put him in a program. He said it didn't help, so he went and got outside treatment. But the thing is, he never forgot where he came from, and after he has recovered, he is out there now helping all first responders in any way he can with a presentation he has put together and also with a memorial. Okay, so I thought his words were very well written, and I think his kind heart is what we all need to look at and think about. He beat it. He beat post-traumatic stress disorder, and we can help our officers also in corrections beat this. You know, corrections, in many studies, it states that correctional officers run about 19% of our officers get post-traumatic stress disorder as compared to 3.5% of the general population. So what do we need to do as correctional officers and family members for post-traumatic stress disorder and suicide issues with our correctional officers? Well, first of all, we as co-workers on the job must be very supportive. We must help. We must talk. We must have an understanding of what's going on. As Mr. Garvin has stated here from Canada, we must have an understanding of what's going on and be able to talk to our fellow officers and help them. And if we see they need help, we must report it. We must tell a supervisor that we believe Officer so-and-so needs help. Maybe it's a family issue with stress, divorce, money issues. Maybe it's a work issue. You know, paramedic Garvin has stated in his letter that he saw something terrible, these fatalities on a couple of calls, and we see the worst things imaginable in corrections. We see suicides, we see murders, we see beatings, we see stabbings, and we get stabbed and we get murdered. We see terrible, terrible things that people in the free world could not imagine ever having to see. This has to have some type of effect on some of our officers. You know, some officers go with it and some it affects badly. So, you know, it's not any weakness whatsoever. We all have different personalities. We all have a difference inside on our feelings, on many things. And for those officers it affects, we must be strong and stand by them and pull them through these serious issues. We see many, many things. We just had an officer from the sheriff's office that I retired from. I believe, I was told he retired around 2018, and now he is gone. And it's a shame because we work all these years with these hardened criminals, putting our life on the line every day to protect the citizens and stand between the criminals and the citizens of this world, only to live a short time after retirement. We want everyone to retire successfully from corrections, and we want everyone to live a long time after corrections and enjoy the fruits, the reward of all those years of hard work. That pension, although in some places it may not be that much, but it's a pension. And those benefits that you earned, we want you to use them for many years to come. So thank you, Daniel Garvin, paramedic from Canada, for this nice letter you sent me and the nice patch and the understanding and the message you're sending out to everyone who is dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder or suicide issues among our first responders. If you didn't listen to anything I said, please listen to what he said in the letter. And let's all get together, families, friends, and co-workers, and management at the prisons and jails, and let's make sure we save every man and woman that wears a uniform and every civilian employee that works in the prison as well. Let's not forget, they see the things that we see in many of the cases. The nurses. What about the medical nurses who see these bloody cells, these bloody bodies from attacks? See, it's not just our correctional uniform, it's the nursing uniform, the medical uniforms. The nurses in our prisons and jails are the paramedics on the streets, just like Mr. Garvin in Canada. Okay, so let's all work together and protect each other. Thank you for watching. Gary York, True Prison Stories.